Okay, so here we go. We're going to be making our RPG, and our goal today is just to load that map that we drew. Mine's shaped like the letter I, yours is shaped however it is. We're going to load the map, and we're going to sort of recreate that virtual environment so that you can show the current room you're in and show the exits that are available according to the map. And then when you go over to that exit, it will trigger you to move to the next room. It's all really illusions. It doesn't really, nothing really changes. I maybe just to ground it for anybody who's watching this as a YouTube video, I'll just quickly show what we'll try to accomplish. And whoa, it takes a while. We want to be able to move to the door, and it takes us to a new room, and we can go back to the same room and move around. There's some like logical consistency to the environment. If you've ever played a video game like this, you probably thought of it as you are going from place to place. It is designed to engage your imagination, and the actual parts of your brain that you use to navigate the real physical 3D space are triggered when you're navigating video game spaces. And so you think of them as actual, terrain and their spatial relationships and all that stuff, but that's not really how it works. This room never changes. You're always in the same room. It just renders a different room, just displays a different room as you get to certain places. What's really changing is, like, if you imagine this mini map here as our map.png file that you saved, what's really changing is two integers, an x and y coordinate that tells us sort of where in this picture we are. And we're just moving those numbers around. I mean, we're just changing those numbers, which represent a space in that 2D plane, that picture. And then based on where that is, we draw appropriate exits on the screen. We're not really quite there. Like, this still isn't really capturing our imaginations yet. Like, if I go down, it looks pretty good. Like, I transition from this room to this room. Notice that the character, like, teleports. It's at the bottom of the screen. All of a sudden, it's at the top of the screen. Like, there's some tricks we're doing to engage our imaginations, but there's more that we can do. A lot of games will have a fade to black and then fade back out as you go from room to room, or some kind of transition. A sound effect, the sound of footsteps or something like that as you go from one room to the next, to really engage your imagination, to hide the fact that this is just one room that we just draw differently based on where we are on the PNG. And I think that's part of the magic of games. A game is never just its code. It's half the code and half in your imagination. And a good game leverages your imagination as much as it leverages the resources of your computer. So we'll get into that. But right now, your game is going to be pretty bare bones and not look super awesome for a little while. So let's just get the basics working. So I'm going to close this version. I'll close it all the way so I don't get confused. And we're going to go and first of all load our RP image, our map file. So I have some various variables here. I'm going to make another section. This is all at the top of my main tab, where I'm going to have some map variables. And I'll spell variables correctly. So first of all, you need a P image for the actual picture that you're loading. I'm going to call it map. And you're going to have a pair of ints, an x and y coordinate that represent where in that map you are. I don't really have a good name for it. I've been using room x and room y, although that spells roomy. So I'm not sure if that's good or bad. But I kind of like roomy. I don't know. I'm going to go with it. So just to be clear, these are the x and y coordinates of where you are in that map. So for me, I'm going to set those to 1 and 1, because that's where I want to start. We talked about that separately. You might need to change those numbers to something else. If something doesn't work, that's the first thing I would check. If you go to run it and like, it's not working, I don't see any doors, then you should check that those numbers are set correctly. Where do we set them? The setup would be a great place. I will set them right here in my setup. Room X is going to be 1, and room Y is going to be 1. And then you just choose the numbers that will work for you. We also have to load the map file. So I guess before I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, before I even set my coordinates, let's also load the map file. So my P image is called map. So I just do equals load image. You've seen this before, right? Map.png. And that's the story right there. I hesitate to think a little bit more about how do we keep track of the size of our room. I think I'll avoid a few problems right now. And I'm also going to put in 2 more variables. I'm going to put in, actually I'll just go across. I'm going to also put in a room, map width and map height. I think I'll just spell it all the way out. Map width and map height. I think it'll be handy to have that information around. And that way, if you decide like you're going to load new maps in the future, bigger ones or even smaller ones, then this will automatically scale. And then we can write code that can adjust to whatever map we create. So I'm going to go down, now that I've created those variables, and also assign those some values. Map width, you can just set to map the picture dot width. And map height, you can set to a map.height. And you might wonder, why don't I just use map.height and map.width later on? I don't know. I feel like students might get a little confused with these things here. So I'm just going to record them as some kind of variable that we can refer to in the future. Okay, so there's that. Now, loading the picture. I'm just going to run it right now. I'm just going to, oh, that's wrong. I got confused. It's just going to run it. I don't expect anything to be different, honestly. Just want to see if it compiles and I load my picture. I don't see any mistakes here. It goes to my intro screen. Awesome. So I knew it loaded correctly. I don't know how you guys have programmed in the past. I mean, I know how many of you have, but I don't know how everybody has. But would you have done this step? It's such a good idea. Anytime you do something, just to compile or run and see if you get any errors. Don't like wait till you finish the entire thing to then press run, and then you get 15 errors and don't know where they are. So I think we're good to go. So next, what we need to do is we have to decide where our doors are to draw. Like right now I get a map, kind of. I get a room. If I run my project, I have this room drawn, but what makes rooms different are where are the doors to go to the next place. So I'd like to write a function where it checks the map and it sees where the doors are. And I'm going to keep track of, do I have a north door or a south door or an east door or a west door with Boolean variables. I'll just have a door variable for the north that could be true or false, and a door variable for the south that could be true or false. And then I'll read the map and I'll set those to true or false based on where I am in the map. That's the plan. So what I'll do is, for again in the main tab, I'll make some room variables to keep, some door variables to keep track of, where what exits are available to me. So I think I'll put that as part of my map variables. I'm going to make Boolean variables for north, south, east, and west. There we go. And again, these represent, are there doors in these directions? I don't have room to say that whole thing. So if north is true, that means there's a door there's a room to my north, and I should draw a door to illustrate that. If south is true, that means there's a room to the south, and I should draw that door. So what I'd like to do now is just see if I can assign those variables values based on where I am in the map. So I'm going to make a function to do this. This is going to be happening during the game, right? So that's going to be in my play tab. So I want to be able to affect my game. So that's going to be sort of me changing how I draw my room. And actually, I think I'll do that first. I'm going to just draw my exits based on whether or not those variables are true. I think that's the easiest code to write. So I'm going to go into my room drawing code. I got there's the floor, and here's those lines to make it look kind of 3D. And then I'm going to write some code for drawing the exits. And all that's going to be is, I'm going to check to see if those variables are true. If they are, I'll draw that circle. I won't get too fancy with the circle. I'll draw a really basic circle right now. So here it goes. All I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, if the north variable is true, you can write it like this. If north equals true, but that is either true or false, right? If north is true, then true equals true, so it's true. So you can just save yourself the time and just write if north. If north. Because n is either true or false. So you don't actually have to compare it to true or false. It is true or false. So I can just say if n, and then I would draw that circle on the north. You'll have to get used to your coordinate system and think about it. For me, my map is 800 wide, 600 tall, and the walls are like a 100 pixel border around the edge. So that lets me draw the ellipses pretty reasonably. I can just go ellipse. If the north is true, I'll draw my north. So that's going to be sort of in the middle of the screen. So width divided by 2. The height for me will be, if it's a 100 thick wall, then the middle of that is 50. So I'll put 50. And what's the size? It's just going to be, I guess, 100 by 100. 100 by, I guess I could shrink it down to get that 3D look, so I could put 50 there. So you're going to have to kind of decide on your own size for your walls. I'm just going to go a little bit further, and then I'm going to sort of manually test whether this works or not. So let me do that. I'll finish that. I'll pause the video at that point, and then you guys can try this out. So I'm going to put in my south wall. Ellipse. So my south wall is also, horizontally speaking, centered in the screen. So it's going to be width divided by 2. And then it's going to be 50 up from the bottom. So I'm going to say height minus 50. And then I'll just do 100 by 100 again for the size. For the east and west walls, so for east, that's on the right-hand side of the screen. Maybe I'll do west first, actually. That'll be on the left-hand side of the screen. Again, I'll draw my door. Ellipse will be, I guess that will be at 50, because I'm 50 in from the side. And the height will be in the middle of the screen, so that'll be height divided by 2. And then 100, 100. And then for east, it'll be ellipse width minus 50. And then height divided by 2, 100, 100. So these are just placing the doors. If I'm supposed to have a door, placing them on the left, the right, or the top or the bottom of the screen. They're just drawing the ellipses in the right place. Because you have a different project, your numbers might not be the same here. But does it make sense, like, why I chose my numbers? Yeah? You probably will just have to take a minute to think about your numbers in particular. And anybody watching at home as well, you'll want to also just think about where these are supposed to be. So I'm not going to give you too much time right now. I'll just show you how I would test this out. Once I've tested it, then I'll come around and help you out, and I'll pause the video. So before I load like the coordinates and stuff from the map, I'm just going to manually set north, south, east, and west to true and false, just to see if it works. So for example, I'm going to set north to true. I just want to see if I see this ellipse, and if it's in the right place. If I put it in the wrong place, I can edit it and so on. So I'm just like, this is just hacking it, really. It's just this breaking the thing. This isn't the way it's going to be in the end. It's just me trying it out to see if it works. So I've said north is true. If I run the project, do I see a north door? That's what I'm trying to see. So project runs, I begin. Hey, look, there's a north door. Great. I'm going to set them all to true to see if I see all 4 of them. So north equals south equals east equals west equals true. This is a nice cascade way to set them all to true. So if they're all true, I should see all 4 doors, and then that lets you like change the coordinates. Maybe your door doesn't get drawn in the right place or something, right? So I'll run that and see. Do I see 4 doors? Yeah, I see 4 doors. So looks like my code's working. Are these like good doors or bad doors? Who cares? Whatever. You can adjust those. And later on, you're not even going to draw ellipses. Well, you could still draw ellipses. I kind of like the ellipses, but you might draw a picture of a door or some other thing as opposed to these circular things. I like doing this. Watch this. You can truncate the circle so it becomes an ellipse, not just in name only. So, for example, I can make this 50. I also like filling with black, as my children taught me. They were like, the door should be black. It kind of makes sense because it's like a black hole in the wall. So if I run this, you can see like this one kind of looks like it's got the perspective going on. I'm no artist. I don't really know all that kind of stuff. But like it looks like it's a little bit more on the wall. You can also move it down a bit to get it so it's like on the edge. And you can even draw the floor on top. Just going back to September, remember the robot drawing where we like drew things on top to get half circles and stuff? You could draw a nice half circle there and just draw the floor on top of it. There's so many tricks you can do. But that's not really important. You guys can design your maps to look however you want. I'm going to stop there, the video, and then I'll just see if anyone's stuck, and you can catch up and get your doors drawn. So the first video will just have been about just kind of getting those variables working.